Podcast.
Day, Lee, day, 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 Lee, 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 day, Lee, day, 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 Lee, 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 day, Lee, day, 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 Lee, day, day, day,
Sons.
day, 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 day,
Sons. Podcast.
All right, hey there, people.
Hey, everybody.
My name is Ashkahn.
And my name is Graham. And today's question for you is, we want to do some tank maintenance, but we're worried we're going to mess everything up. Yeah, I feel you. Should we take things apart just to do it? Or should we go with the old adage of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
All right. That's very general. I wish I knew a little bit more specifics about what they were talking about. But, you know, what you can't let fear hold you back.
Yeah, then there's some maintenance that just needs to be done, you know?
Yeah. So you can't just...
You can't wait for things to break either. Yeah.
The solution shouldn't be just don't touch anything and avert your eyes and pretend like everything's fine. So yeah, you should probably do the maintenance you think is important that you should be doing.
Yeah, and the fact that it's called maintenance and not like just abstract upgrades, or, you know, like I had this sick idea to pimp out my float tank, like should I be blowing up alone, or yeah. But, you know, things like, actually, like we talked about during a different episode, draining your tank and cleaning it out on the inside and refilling it every so often, making sure to get the inside of the pipes, things like changing your impeller, changing UV bulbs.
Cleaning the impeller.
What did I say? Changing the impeller?
You don't need a new impeller. But.
Yeah, cleaning the impeller, getting all the hair out of there. And all of that is regular maintenance that does feel a little intense when you're doing it for the first time and actually taking apart your pump and breaking spindles in the middle of the night and stuff like that, you know?
So here's the deal. Is when you
break it down for us.
I'm gonna break it down here. When you're doing maintenance, I think there's two things that I like to keep as general rules that make all this go a little bit easier. One of them is to only do one thing at a time. If you have to change the UV bulbs on all 5 of your float tanks or something, do one UV bulb per week. Don't just spend one day being like, I'm just going to do all 5 tanks at once, because, you know, when you do stuff like this, there is a pretty decent chance you're going to mess something up. And even if you don't mess anything up, like you put it all back together and it's just kind of leaking all of a sudden. And there's just stuff like that happens, like way more than you would want or think that it would. And sometimes it's to the point that your float tank is kind of down. You're going to need to spend a few days fixing it. So only doing one thing at a time allows it so that, you have time to deal with stuff when it goes wrong. And also, if in the worst case scenario, something happens to the point that you do actually have to cancel floats for that next day or 2 days or something, if you just have one float tank down, that's a lot easier than having all of your float tanks down all of a sudden. You may be able to scoot appointments around to the point where you don't even actually have to call and cancel on anyone if you've just got one float tank down. So that's usually what we like to do. We never take on one bigger maintenance task. We never take on more than one maintenance task like that for our float tanks per week. And the other thing that is a really nice rule to kind of keep is basically usually this maintenance there's a certain amount of pieces in whatever machinery you're taking apart that are really easy to break. So when you're replacing UV bulbs, like the glass tube around the UV bulb, the quartz sleeve, or the bulb itself, are basically giant long pieces of thin glass. Those are easy to break. In pumps, usually there's a little porcelain spindle kind of holding the impeller in place. That thing's really easy to break.
Really easy to break, yeah.
So you've broken so many of them. So I kind of have it as a rule that we do not ever open anything. A pump, a UV light, we don't unscrew or start messing with anything unless I have spares of those fragile pieces already on hand. Because the spares are usually pretty cheap. You know, those spindles cost $10. But not having one and breaking one means it's 3 days or 4 days until you're going to have to get that emergency shipped to you. And that's just 3 or 4 days that your float tank is down. So that can be a really big difference in how screwed you are when you break something. So those are kind of the main things. Don't do more than one thing a day. And if you ever touch anything, make sure you already have spares of the fragile parts available to you.
Yeah, and if you're really nervous, or if it's, expensive machinery that you're talking about here, like actually doing maintenance on your UV system or doing maintenance on your pump, it doesn't hurt to look online for the manual, to check in with the manufacturer. They have technical departments that you can talk to and make sure that you're doing things right. taking apart your pump, you actually need a calibrated torque wrench where you can like actually know exactly how many pounds of pressure that you're putting into.
Pumps. Not all pumps.
Yes, okay, fine. Some pumps you need that, right? And if you don't know which pump they are, it can cause problems.
It's true. You can tighten things and you'll like warp the
actual
like,
pump housing, and that you'd need an entire spare pump to fix. So don't be afraid to reach out for help and guidance too. Again, both from manuals and from technical departments.
And you're really going to be surprised how few parts are inside of these pieces of equipment that you think. Like the first time I took a pump apart, I was like, oh boy. And I opened it and I'm like, wait, there's 3 pieces in here. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And like a UV light, a lot of people's UV lights, those kind of like Delta UV ones and stuff, if you open up those, it's literally just a tube. There's like a glass tube and a light bulb in it. And the rest is just a big, open, empty, hollow cylinder. It's nice. It's nice to like understand what these things are and how they work. And that way in the future, if you notice something is having a problem, you probably have a better chance of kind of understanding what's going on and understanding if it's important or it can wait or, getting comfortable with your equipment is really useful.
Yeah, and the first time you change your UV sheaths and bulb, just plan on having like 2 backups or something. Like those are like often the easiest things to break. I think that in our shop, that's like the biggest serious maintenance thing that has gone wrong. Yeah, just over and over
We've
again.
Broken a lot of spindles too.
Yeah.
But, and separate the UV thing. If you're worried about breaking glass, you don't want it to be connected to the rest of your float tank system. So if you do break something, you can like totally flush it out and clean it without without any concern of any glass getting into your float tank.
Is that...
I mean, yeah, we can if we had a more specific idea of what maintenance you're trying to do, we could give a more specific answer. But in general, that's it. Like, do it. It's probably not going to be quite as crazy as you think, but make sure you're going into it.
Yeah, plan for the worst.
Yeah. Make sure the worst case scenario is not going to totally screw you over and bring all your float tanks down.
And don't wait for something to break. I mean, doing regular maintenance is absolutely the way to extend the life of your float tanks and pay the least amount of money and stuff like that. So,
and it's good. What we do at our shop is we take all this bigger routine maintenance and we schedule it out across a year. So we'll use like our Helm software with these task generators and set these things to show up, like these tasks to pop up 1 week apart. So we'll go through 6 weeks of, clean the impeller in room 1 and then clean the impeller in room 2 and then clean the impeller in room 3 and then 6 weeks of changing our UV bulbs and then 6 weeks of, draining and filling our tanks 1 tank at a time. And as we do, and there's enough stuff like that kind of like every week there's one big task that needs to be done. And so if you can actually sit down and kind of plan out like your year of maintenance.
Cool. And if you have any more questions for us, head on over to floatanksolutions.com/podcast.
Yeah, it's really fun over there.
Highly recommended. Highly recommended.
All right. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.